Good morning, this is Klevesahl. I am your advanced certified profit first professional helping you run your business in a smart way so that you can stop throwing money into it and not seeing anything for your efforts. Today I wanted to read to you from the first chapter of Profit First. Last week we read from the introduction. I'm going to be reading part of the chapter because I like to keep our videos and our talks to about 20-25 minutes if I can, and I know this chapter's pretty long. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the chat and I will get back to you after I'm done reading. And I'm also going to pop into the group when I'm done here for a little Q&A or discussion about what we've heard from Mike in this chapter today. So if you have any questions, you can always do it then, or if you're unable to watch right now, you see that we're on, but you need to watch in the replay, just put hashtag replay. That way I know that you're watching it later, and I will also check back in the feed and make sure that I'm getting you any answers that you're looking for. So without further ado, chapter 1, your business is an out of control cash eating monster. No matter how many years you've been at the grind, you're probably well aware of this statistic that roughly 50% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. What they don't tell you is that those failed entrepreneurs are, in fact, the lucky ones. The majority of businesses that survive are racking up debt, and their leaders are perpetually stressed. Most entrepreneurs are living a financial nightmare, one that's populated by Freddy Krueger or Frankenstein's monster in its raw, unadulterated scariness. And in fact, I'm convinced that I am Dr. Frankenstein. If you've read Mary Shelley's classic Frankenstein, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The good doctor reanimated life. From mismatched body parts, he stitched together a living being more monster than man. Of course, his creation wasn't a monster at first. No, at first it was a miracle. Dr. Frankenstein brought to life something that, without his extraordinary idea and exhaustive work, could not exist. That's what I did. That's what you did. We brought something to life that didn't exist before we dreamed it up. We created a business out of thin air. Impressive, miraculous, beautiful. Or at least it was, until we realized our creation was actually a monster. Stitching together a business with nothing but a great idea, your unique talents, and whatever few resources you have at hand is most certainly a miracle. And it feels like one too, until the day you realize that your business has become a giant, scary, soul-sucking, cash-eating monster. That's the day that you discover that you too are an esteemed member of the Frankenstein family. And just as happened in Shelley's book, mental and physical torment ensues. You try to tame the monster, excuse me, but you can't. The monster wreaks destruction at every turn. Empty bank accounts, credit card debt, loans, an ever-increasing list of must-pay expenses. He eats up your time, too. You wake up before sunrise to work, and you're still at it long after the sun goes down. You work, and yet the monster continues to loom. Your relentless work doesn't free you. It further drains you. Trying to keep the monster at bay before it destroys your entire world is exhausting. You suffer sleepless nights, worries about collection calls, sometimes from your own employees, and a near constant panic about how to cover next week's bills with the few dollars and a lint in your pocket. Didn't you start a business so that you could be your own boss? Now it looks as though the monster is the boss of you. If you think operating your business is closer to a horror story than a fairy tale, you're not alone. Since I wrote my first book, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, I've met tens of thousands of entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, most are struggling to tame the beast that is their business. Many companies, even those that appear to have it all together, even the big guys who seem to dominate their industries, are one bad month away from total collapse. My own wake-up call came in the form of my daughter's piggy bank. Sorry, the smoke is like draining my voice. The piggy bank that changed my life. I lost my way the day I received a check for $388,000. It was the first several weeks. It was the first of several checks. There you go. It was the first of several checks I would receive for the sale of my second company, a multi-million-dollar computer forensic investigations business that I had co-founded, to a Fortune 500 firm. I had now built and sold 2 companies, and that check was the proof I needed that my friends and family were right about me. When it came to growing businesses, I had the Midas touch. Sorry, I started coughing today. The day I received the check, I bought 3 cars. A Dodge Viper, my college fantasy dream car, and I have subsequently found many people identify that as the guy must have a tiny penis car. Something I had promised I would get for myself one day when I'd made it, a Land Rover for my wife, and a spare, tricked-out BMW. I'd always believed in frugality, but now I was rich with an ego to match. I joined the private club, the one where the more money you give, the higher they place your name on the members wall. And I rented a house on a remote Hawaiian island so my wife, my children, and I could spend the next 3 or 4 weeks experiencing what our new lifestyle would be like. You know, how the other half lives. I thought it was time to revel in all the money I had created. What I didn't know was that I was about to learn the difference between making money, income, and taking money, profit. These are 2 very different ideas. I launched my first business on ambition and air, sleeping in my car or under conference room tables in order to avoid the cost of hotels when visiting clients. So imagine the surprised look on the face of my wife, Krista, when I asked the sales guy at the dealership for the most expensive Land Rover you have. Not the best Land Rover, not the safest Land Rover, the most expensive Land Rover. He skipped his way to his manager doing a giddy hand clap. Krista looked at me and said, "Have you lost your mind? Can we really afford this?" Full of snark, I said, "Can we afford it? We have more money than God." I will never forget the stupidity coming out of my mouth that day. Such disgusting words, such a disgusting ego. Krista was right. I had lost my mind, and at least for a moment, my soul. That day was the beginning of the end. I was well on my way to discovering that while I knew how to make millions, what I was really, really proficient at was losing millions. It wasn't just the lifestyle I bought into that caused my financial downfall. The trappings of success were a symptom of my arrogance. I believed in my own mythology. I was King Midas reinvented. I could do no wrong. Because I had the golden touch and knew how to build successful businesses, I decided that investing in a dozen brand new startups was the best way to use my windfall. After all, it was only a matter of time before my entrepreneurial genius rubbed off on some of these promising companies. Did I care whether the founders of these companies knew what they were doing? No, I had all the answers. Read that with the massive douchebag emphasis. I assumed that my golden touch would more than compensate for their lack of business expertise. I hired a team to manage the infrastructure of these startups, accounting, marketing, social media, web design. I was sure I had the formula for success: a promising startup, the infrastructure, and my incredible superior magic touch, more douche emphasis. Then I started writing checks, 5,000 to one person, 10,000 to another, every month more checks, and still more. One time I cut a check for $50,000 to cover expenses for one of these companies. I was focused on one thing and one thing only: growth. Mindlessly throwing money at startup companies wasn't even in alignment with my values about money. I was a bootstrapper and proud of it. Still, I was blind to my mistakes. I was all pump and dump, grow the business and sell them. In retrospect, it was clear that I would not be able to grow all of these companies to the point where they would eventually become niche authorities. Excuse me, as I had with my 2 previous companies. There was never enough revenue to cover the ever-increasing mountain of bills. Because of my massive ego, I didn't allow the good people who started these businesses to become true entrepreneurs. They were just my pawns. I ignored the signs and kept funneling money into my investments. I was sure that King Midas would be able to turn it all around. Within 12 months, all of the companies I'd invested in except one had gone belly up. When I started writing checks to pay bills for companies that had already folded, I realized I was not an angel investor. I was the angel of death. It was a monumental disaster. Scratch that. I was a monumental disaster. Within a couple of years, I lost nearly every penny of my hard-earned fortune. Over $500,000 in savings gone. Much larger, embarrassingly larger amount of investment money gone. Worse, I had no incoming revenue. By February 14th of 2008, I was down to my last $10,000. I will never forget that Valentine's Day. Not because it was so full of love, even though it was, but because it was the day that I realized the old adage, when you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. It's total bullshit. I'll read that again. That is the day I realized that the old adage, when you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up, is total bullshit. I discovered that day that when you hit rock bottom, sometimes you get dragged along the bottom, scraping your face on every one of those rocks until you've been battered, bruised, and bloodied. That morning, I got a call at my office from Keith, my accountant. Not to be confused with Keith, the hot air balloon guy. He said, "Good news, Mike. I got a jump start on your taxes this year and just finished your return for 2007. You owe only $28,000. Repeat that part. You owe only $28,000. Yikes. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like a knife stabbing me. I remember thinking, is this what it feels like to have a heart attack? I would have to scramble to get the $18,000 I didn't have, and then figure out how to cover my mortgage for the next month, plus all of the small, recurring, and unexpected expenses that added up to a whole lot of cash. As Keith wrapped up the call, he said that the bill for his services would arrive on Monday. How much? I asked. $2,000. I felt the knife twist. I had $10,000 in my name and bills totaling 3 times that amount. After I ended the call, I put my head on my desk and cried. I'd gone so far astray from my values, from who I was at my core, that I had destroyed everything. Now, not only could I not pay my taxes, I had no idea how it would provide for my family. At the McAllowitz household, Valentine's Day is a legit holiday, on the level with Thanksgiving. We have a special dinner together, exchange cards, go around the table sharing stories about what we love about each other. This is why Valentine's Day is my favorite day of the year. Typically, I would come home with flowers or balloons or both. That Valentine's Day, I came home with nothing. Though I tried to hide it, my family knew something was wrong. At the dinner table, Krista asked me if I was okay. That was all it took for the dam to break. The shame was too great. I went from offering up forced smiles to sobbing in a matter of seconds. My children stared at me, shocked and horrified. When I finally stopped crying long enough to speak, I said, I lost everything, every single penny. Total silence. I slumped over my chair. The shame was too great for me to face my family. Not when all the money I earned was supposed to support them was gone. Not only had I failed to provide for my family, my ego had stolen it all away. I felt pure, unadulterated shame about what I had done. My daughter, who was 9 years old at the time, got up from the table and ran to her bedroom. I couldn't really blame her. I wanted to run away too. The silence continued for 2 painfully awkward minutes until she walked back into the room carrying her piggy bank, the one she had received as a gift when she was born. It had clearly been cared for. Even with all those years of use, there wasn't a single chip or crack in the bank. She had secured the rubber stopper in place with a combination of masking tape, duct tape, and rubber bands. She set her piggy bank down on the dining room table and slid it towards me. Then she said the words that would stay with me. I cannot read this without crying. Until the day I die. Daddy, we're going to make it. That Valentine's Day, I woke up feeling like Debbie Horovich felt after her instant assessment, like a fool. But by the end of the day, I'd learned what net worth really is, thanks to my 9-year-old daughter. That day, I also learned that no amount of talent, ingenuity, passion, or skills would change the fact that cash is still king. I learned that a 9-year-old girl had mastered the essence of financial security. Save your money and block access to it so it doesn't get stolen by you. And I learned that I could tell myself that my natural aptitude for business, my relentless drive, and my solid work ethic could overcome any cash crisis, but it would be a lie. Running the instant assessment can be like having a bucket of ice water dropped on your head. If you did the ice bucket challenge a couple of years ago, you know that spine-shuddering chill that I'm talking about. Or it can seem like the most humbling moment of your life, like when your daughter volunteers her life savings to save you from the mess you made. But no matter how sharp the pain is, it's better to face it than to continue to live and operate your business in denial. Let's flip ahead here and just see. I don't want to dive too deep if we can't go. We can go to we're going to go to the next section. Oh, right. So the next section is money problems. We're still in chapter 1. You've probably put a lot of work into growing your business. You're probably good or great at that part. That's awesome. And that's surely half of the equation. But colossal growth without financial health will still kill your company. With this book, you have an opportunity to master money. Money is the foundation. Without enough money, we cannot take our message, our products, our services out into the world. Without enough money, we are slaves to the business that we launched. I find this hilarious because, in large part, we started our businesses because we wanted to be free. Without enough money, we cannot fully realize our authentic selves. Money amplifies who we are. There isn't a single ounce of doubt in my mind that there is something big that you are intended to do on this planet. You wear the cape of what I believe is the greatest of all superheroes, the entrepreneur. But your superhero powers can only yield as much power as your energy source provides, money. You need money, superhero. When I sat down to evaluate where I went wrong, I realized that my own spending and arrogance definitely played a part. I also lacked knowledge. I had mastered how to grow businesses quickly, but I never really graduated to the understanding profitability. With the trash going outside. I had to learn how to collect money for sure, but I had never learned how to keep it, how to control it, or how to grow it. I knew how to grow a business from nothing, working with whatever resources I had, but as my revenue increased, so did my spending. I discovered that this was the way I ran both my personal life and my business. I took pride in making magic happen with pennies in my pocket, but as soon as I got some real cash, I made sure that I had a very good reason to spend it. It was a check-to-check lifestyle, but sustainable as long as sales were sustained and did not dip. While my companies grew explosively, I still operated them on a check-to-check basis. And I had no idea that this was a problem. The point was to grow, right? Increase sales and the profit will take care of itself, right? Wrong. If you're here, you probably already know this. Wrong. Money problems occur when one of two things happen. First, sales slow down. The problem here is obvious when you operate check to check and sales slow down. When your one big client goes out of business or that big deal you were banking on falls through, you don't have enough money to cover expenses. Second thing is sales speed up. This problem here is not obvious, but it is insidious. As your income climbs, expenses quickly follow. Big deposits feel great, but they're irregular. Consistent incoming cash flow is hard to sustain. A great quarter can trick you into believing your business is on a permanent upswing, and you start spending like this is the new normal. But drought periods come quickly and unexpectedly, causing a major gap in cash flow. And cutting back on expenses is nearly impossible because our business and personal life is locked in at that new level. Exchanging the newly leased car for a rust bucket, laying off employees because we're overstaffed, saying no to our partners, all of this is very hard to do because of the agreements and promises that we made. We don't want to admit that we've been wrong in how we're growing our business. So rather than reduce our costs in a meaningful way, we scramble to cover ridiculously high expenses. We steal from Peter to pay Paul, hoping for another big payout. Sound familiar? I thought it might. Over the last 8 years, I've connected with entrepreneurs at every level of growth. And this top line, revenue-focused, check-to-check methodology is more common than you realize. We assume that multi-million-dollar companies are turning big profits, but it's rare to find a truly profitable business. Most entrepreneurs are just covering their monthly net or worse and accumulating massive debt. Without an understanding of profitability, every business, no matter how big, no matter how successful, is a house of cards. I made a lot of money with my first 2 businesses, but that's not because I ran a tight financial ship. I was just lucky enough to keep the plate spinning fast enough and the company growth big enough that someone else was willing to buy it and fix the financial problems. Bigger is not better. Why the hell is success constantly defined by applying the supersize me principle to your business? Does more revenue mean you're more successful? No. I know far too many businesses, big businesses, with owners who are in pure panic and use lawn furniture to decorate the inside of their houses because they have to funnel every spare penny into their business to keep them from sinking. Is that success? Hardly. Growth is the battle cry of nearly every entrepreneur and business leader. Grow, 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 bigger sales, bigger customers, bigger investors. But to what end? Bigger business means bigger problems for sure. Yet it surely does not guarantee bigger profits, especially when profit is a hopeful residual. Growth is only half the equation. It is an important half, but still only half. Have you ever seen the guys in the gym with those massive arms and heaving chests, the ones as big as an oxen that also have toothpick legs? They're only working half the equation and have become unhealthy freaks as a result. Sure, that guy can throw a monster punch, but God forbid he needs to step into it, move a little. His puny legs will give out instantly. He'll curl up on the floor and cry like a baby, a little mutant baby. Most business owners try to grow their way out of their problems, hinging salvation on the next big sale or customer or investor, but the real result is simply a bigger monster. And the bigger your company gets, the more anxiety you deal with. A $300,000 cash-eating monster is much easier to manage than a $3 million one. I know, have survived operating on both. This is constant growth without concern for health. And the day-to-day, I'm sorry, we got to take another drink. I lost my place. Okay, this is constant growth without concern for health. And the day that big sale or customer or investor doesn't show, you will fall to the ground and you will curl up like a baby. Jason Fried, co-founder of Basecamp, wrote an article for Inc. in which he talked about the demise of his favorite Chicago pizza joint. The owners did everything right, except that they grew too fast. After building their business slowly, they suddenly scaled from 20 to 40 locations. Sales could not outpace their debt, and Fried's beloved pizza chain was forced to close. The perfect size for your business, it will happen naturally when you take your profit first. You will reverse engineer all the elements of your business, and as Fried says, the right size will find you. So why are entrepreneurs programmed to pursue bigger and bigger and bigger? Because of an assumption that at a certain point, all that revenue will yield a profit. You think you just need one more big project or one more new client or just a bit more time. And finally, that profit will pour in, but it never does. Profit is always within sight, but never attainable. It's like that donkey with the carrot hanging over his head. The jackass keeps working harder and harder, but never gets the carrot. It's always just one more step away. The problem is that jackass is you. Sorry about the brutal honesty. I hurt you because I love you. Here's the deal, my friend. Profit is not an event. Profit is not something that happens at year end or at the end of your 5-year plan or someday. Profit isn't even something that waits until tomorrow. Profit must happen now and always. Profit must be baked into your business every day, every transaction, every moment. Profit is not an event. It is a habit. Do you know the saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king? It is a succinct reminder that your job is to maximize profit regardless of the current size of your business. As you focus on profit, you'll discover new ways to both streamline and grow your business. It doesn't work the other way around. The lemming mentality of growing first with the hope of finding profit in the process is so bass-ackward. He writes it backwards. It's so bass-ackward, it drives me nuts. Recently, I delivered a speech in tiny Georgetown, Colorado, at an event hosted by my dear friend, Michelle Villalobos. As often happens in my Profit First presentations, one of the entrepreneurs said, "This sounds great and all, but I need to grow. I need to put all my money back into my business to do that." Perhaps you're thinking the same thing right now. If you are, it's because you're stuck in the mode of grow now, profit someday. I asked her, "Why do you want to grow?" "I want to grow so that my company can manage more clients and generate more sales," she said. "Why do you want to do that?" She looked at me as if I were an alien. "So that my company is bigger, Mike." "Why do you want a bigger company?" I asked. "So that I can make more money," she responded. I could tell from her tone that she was getting exasperated. "Aha," I said. "Now we have peeled back that good old Georgetown, Colorado onion, which, let me be clear, is not known for its onions. Why not just make more money now?" She wants to grow so that she can make a profit one day. Alternatively, if you want to grow for ego or to boast, that is just dumb. Exactly what I did in the past. So embarrassing. If you want to grow to make money for yourself one day, you're playing in a game of kick the profit down the road. Here's the reality if you want a healthy, sustainable growth, which, not so surprisingly, will spawn more healthy growth. You need to reverse engineer the profit. Take profit first. You can't grow out of your profit problem. You need to fix profit first, then grow. You must figure out the things that make profit and dump the things that don't. When you focus on growth, it is inevitably a scramble to grow at all costs. Yes, at all costs, including your quality of life. When you focus on profit first, you inevitably figure out how to make money, how to make profit consistently. Profitability, stability, sanity forevermore. Okay, you guys, I'm going to stop there. I am right above check to check and panic to panic on page 21 if you're following along. I'm going to jump over to the Facebook group in a second. If you guys have any questions, pop in there and ask them there. I would love to hear what you're thinking about what we've read today. Thank you so much for being with me here. And if you are watching this on my YouTube channel, the Facebook group that I keep mentioning is Profit First Business Owners, and you can search that when you get over to Facebook. You just put in the search bar, Profit First Business Owners, and you will see my face. And please join me. I'd love to have you in our group.